Wumi, you think you can be more beautiful and luckier than my daughter. Now receive ugliness!
If you become successful in this city, be careful how you mingle when you return to the village. Not everybody smiling with you is happy for you. Wumi returned home rich, beautiful, and successful. Everybody praised her, admired her, and wanted to be around her. But one woman in that same village could not stand seeing her shine. This is how it all started. From the day Wumi was born, everybody in the village talked about her beauty. She is too beautiful. Have you seen her eyes? She looks like a child from heaven. Wumi's parents were poor. They lived in a small mud house with an old zinc roof. Sometimes they had food, sometimes they did not, but they loved their daughter deeply. As Wumi grew older, her beauty became impossible to ignore. Women in the village admired her, while some secretly wished their own daughters looked like her. One of those women was Agnes. Agnes was close friends with Wumi's mother. She had a daughter named Ronke who was around Wumi's age. Ronke and Wumi were very close. They played together almost every day, fetched water together, sat under the mango tree together, and shared food whenever they could. Ronke genuinely loved Wumi, but Agnes was different. Whenever people praised Wumi's beauty, Agnes smiled outside, but inside she was jealous. Why is everybody always talking about Wumi? She would ask herself. As the years passed, Wumi became even more beautiful. By the age of 10, strangers passing through the village would stop and ask about her. One afternoon, a black car entered the village. Children ran after it because they hardly saw cars like that. Inside was Wumi's uncle, her mother's brother. He lived in the city with his wife. They had been married for years but had no children. After greeting everyone, he sat with Wumi's parents inside their small house. "I want Wumi to come and live with me in the city," he said. The room became quiet. "She will go to a good school. She will live a better life. My wife and I will take care of her like our own child." Wumi's parents looked worried. "She is our only child," she said. "I know," her brother replied, "but she deserves more than this village can give her." That night, Wumi's parents talked for a long time. They loved their daughter, but they knew they could not give her the future she deserved. The next morning, they agreed. When Wumi heard the news, she did not know whether to be happy or sad. She had never left the village before. "What about Ronke?" she asked. "You will still see her when you come back," her mother said. When Ronke heard that Wumi was leaving, she started crying. "You cannot leave me," she said. "I will come back," Wumi promised. "You better not forget me, oh. I will never forget you." Agnes stood nearby and watched them. Outside, she pretended to be happy. "This is good for Wumi," she said. But inside, she was angry. Good things always happen to her, she thought. The day Wumi left, many people came to say goodbye. Ronke cried as she watched the car drive away. Wumi looked through the window at her village, her parents, and her best friend standing by the roadside. Then she faced the road ahead. She did not know it yet, but the village she was leaving behind would one day become the place where her biggest problem would come from. Many years passed, and Wumi did not return to the village often. Life in the city changed her completely. Her uncle and his wife gave her the best schools, the best clothes, and a good life. Wumi was very smart, and as she grew older, she became successful in tech. She got a good job, made a lot of money, bought her own car, and lived in a beautiful house in the city. But success changed her. She was no longer the humble little girl who used to run around the village with Ronke. She became proud. One year, there was a big festival in the village, and Wumi decided to come home. The day she arrived, everybody gathered outside to see her. A shiny car stopped in front of her parents' house. Wumi stepped out wearing expensive clothes, high heels, makeup, and dark sunglasses. Her skin was glowing, her hair was perfect, and she looked more beautiful than ever. The villagers could not stop staring at her. "See how beautiful she has become. She looks like a celebrity. She has really made it in life." Wumi smiled proudly as people admired her. She hugged her parents and gave them many gifts. She brought bags of rice, clothes, shoes, money, and expensive food items. Her parents were happy to see her. "My daughter has become somebody great," her mother said proudly. Soon, everybody in the village started talking about Wumi. The young girls wanted to be like her, the women admired her beauty, the men could not stop looking at her. Even the rich young men who came from nearby towns for the festival kept trying to talk to her. But Wumi enjoyed the attention too much. Whenever people greeted her, she barely answered. When elders called her, she acted like she did not hear. If village girls tried to talk to her, she looked at them like they were beneath her. One afternoon, some girls were sitting outside under a tree, talking and laughing. Wumi walked past them. "Wumi," one of them called happily, "come and sit with us." Wumi looked at them and laughed softly. "You people will not understand the kind of things I talk about," she said. The girls looked at each other in embarrassment. "We only wanted to greet you," another girl said quietly. Wumi rolled her eyes and walked away. Even Ronke felt uncomfortable around her. Ronke was happy to see her childhood friend again, but Wumi had changed too much. Whenever Ronke tried to talk about village life, Wumi looked bored. Whenever Ronke asked her questions about the city, she answered in a way that made her feel small. "You would not understand," Wumi would say. "Things are different in the city. You village people think too small." Ronke would smile, but inside, those words hurt her. One evening during the festival, many young men gathered around Wumi. They praised her beauty, offered her drinks, and competed for her attention. Wumi enjoyed every moment. She laughed loudly, flipped her hair, and acted like she was better than every other girl there. The other girls watched quietly. Some were hurt, some were embarrassed, some were angry. But no one was more angry than Agnes. Agnes stood at a distance and watched Wumi closely. She saw how everybody admired her. She saw how rich men followed her around. She saw how village girls felt intimidated by her. She saw the way Wumi spoke to people with no respect. Agnes became more bitter each day. "She thinks she's better than everybody," Agnes said angrily to herself. "She thinks beauty and money make her special." One day, Wumi was walking through the village market wearing expensive clothes and sunglasses. An elderly woman greeted her. "My daughter, welcome." Wumi looked at the woman and kept walking without answering. The old woman looked shocked. "Did she just ignore me?" she asked. People standing nearby shook their heads. She has changed. City life has entered her head. She no longer respects anybody. That night, Agnes sat outside her house with Ronke. Ronke was quiet. "I should not compare yourself to Wumi," Agnes said. Ronke looked at her mother. "I am not comparing myself to her," she replied softly. "I just miss the old Wumi." Agnes frowned. "The old Wumi is gone," she said. "Now she only cares about herself." Ronke looked down sadly. Meanwhile, inside her parents' house, Wumi stood in front of a mirror and smiled at herself. She loved the way people admired her. She loved the way men chased after her. She loved the way other girls looked at her with envy. But outside that same night, someone was watching her with growing hatred. And that hatred was slowly becoming dangerous.
The festival continued for several more days, and everywhere Wumi went, people followed her with their eyes. Men admired her beauty. Women talked about her expensive clothes. Young girls wished they could be like her. Wumi enjoyed all the attention. Every day, she wore something new. One day, it was a tight red gown. The next day, it was a short black dress. And another day, it was a sparkling outfit with expensive jewelry. She walked through the village like someone important, and people moved aside for her. She also spent money freely. She bought drinks for people, gave some children money, and paid musicians to sing her name during the festival. Whenever her shiny car passed through the village, people stopped to look at it. She is rich. She has made it in life. She is too beautiful. All those words kept entering Agnes's ears every day. Agnes was tired of hearing Wumi's name. She was tired of hearing people praise her beauty. She was tired of hearing people talk about her money. Everywhere she turned, it was Wumi this, Wumi that. One afternoon, Agnes sat outside her house and watched as Wumi drove past in her car. A group of young boys ran after the car, shouting her name excitedly. Agnes hissed loudly. At that same moment, Ronke returned from the farm carrying a basket on her head. Her clothes were dusty and sweat covered her face. Agnes looked at her daughter and sighed. Ronke was beautiful in her own way, but her life was completely different from Wumi's. She spent her days on the farm, helping with planting and harvesting. She had never traveled outside the village. She had no rich boyfriend, no fancy clothes, no car, and no expensive phone. Worst of all, No man had ever come to ask for her hand in marriage. Agnes looked at Ronke with sadness, but that sadness quickly turned into bitterness. "Look at your life," she said suddenly. Ronke stopped and looked at her mother. "What happened?" she asked. Agnes shook her head. "You and Wumi are almost the same age, but look at the difference between both of you." Ronke looked uncomfortable. "Mama, please do not start." "Why should I not start?" Agnes snapped. "See how Wumi is living. She is rich, beautiful, educated, and successful. Men are following her everywhere. Meanwhile, you are here carrying firewood and working on the farm every day." Ronke lowered her eyes. "I did not ask to be born into this life," she said quietly. Agnes sighed heavily. "If only you had even half of Wumi's luck." Ronke felt hurt by those words. She had always tried her best to make her mother proud. She was hardworking, respectful, and kind, but none of those things seemed enough for Agnes anymore. That evening, Wumi came to visit them. She walked into the compound wearing expensive perfume, a fitted gown, and sunglasses, even though the sun was already going down. Ronke smiled when she saw her. "Wumi," she said happily. Wumi hugged her lightly. "You're still here in this village?" Wumi asked with a small laugh. Ronke forced a smile. "Yes, where else would I be?" Wumi laughed again. "You need to leave this place one day. There is nothing here." Agnes watched quietly from the corner. She hated the way Wumi talked. She hated the way Wumi always made Ronke feel small. Wumi sat down and started talking about the city. She spoke about her big house, her expensive clothes, her office, and the places she traveled to. Ronke listened carefully because she genuinely admired Wumi, but Agnes only heard pride in every word. "You people in the village do not understand how life works in the city," Wumi said. "Everything is different there. You need to dress well, talk well, and move with important people." Agnes felt anger rise inside her. She looked at Ronke sitting quietly beside Wumi. Ronke looked so simple beside her old friend. At that moment, Agnes made up her mind. She could no longer keep watching Wumi shine while her own daughter remained behind. That night, Agnes could not sleep. She kept thinking about Wumi's beauty. She kept thinking about her car. She kept thinking about the rich men surrounding her. She kept thinking about how people looked at Ronke with pity and looked at Wumi with admiration. By morning, Agnes had made a decision. She was going to speak to Wumi's mother. If Wumi could help Ronke go to the city, maybe her daughter's life could change too. But deep inside, Agnes already had another feeling growing in her heart, and that feeling was becoming darker every day. The next morning, Agnes was tired of hearing Wumi's name everywhere. But what hurt her most was when she looked at Ronke. Ronke was her daughter, and she knew she was a good girl. Ronke was hardworking, respectful, and intelligent. She did not insult people. She did not fight. She woke up early in the morning to help around the house and went to the farm without complaining. Even though she had not gone far in school, Ronke was very smart. She learned quickly and always paid attention whenever somebody taught her something new. Agnes believed that if Ronke had been given the same chance Wumi had, her life would have been different too. That morning, Agnes decided to go and speak to Wumi's mother. She tied her wrapper tightly around her waist and covered her head before leaving the house. When she arrived, Mama Wumi was outside sweeping the compound. Mama Wumi smiled when she saw her friend. Agnes greeted her and sat down. At first, she did not know how to bring up the matter. She felt ashamed because she did not like begging people for help. But as she thought about Ronke and her future, she decided to speak. She told Mama Wumi that Ronke wanted a better life. She explained that there was nothing much for her daughter in the village apart from farming and suffering. She said Ronke was willing to learn anything if only somebody could help her. Mama Wumi listened carefully. She already knew that Ronke was a good girl. She had watched Ronke grow up alongside Wumi. She knew that Ronke was respectful, kind, and intelligent. She had never treated Wumi badly even after Wumi became rich and successful. Mama Wumi promised that she would speak to Wumi about it. Agnes felt relieved. She thanked her friend and returned home. Later that afternoon, Wumi came back from another outing in the village. She had spent the day with some rich young men who had come for the festival. As soon as she entered the house, her mother called her into the room. She told her everything Agnes had said. At first, Wumi did not answer immediately. She sat quietly and thought about it. She knew city life was not easy. Everything was expensive, rent was high, food was expensive, transportation cost a lot. She also knew that teaching someone from the beginning would take time and patience. At first, she felt like it would be too much stress. But then her mother reminded her that she too had once been a poor village girl. If her uncle had not taken her to the city, she would probably still be in the village, carrying water and farming like everybody else. That made Wumi think deeply. For a moment, she remembered her childhood with Ronke. She remembered how they used to fetch water together. She remembered how they used to sit under the mango tree and laugh. She remembered how Ronke always shared her food with her whenever she had little. Even after all these years, Ronke had remained kind to her. She never insulted her. She never showed jealousy. She never fought her. That evening, Ronke came to visit Wumi. She sat beside her outside the house. At first, they talked about small things, but after some time, Ronke finally opened up. She admitted that she wanted more from life. She said she was tired of struggling in the village. She wanted to learn something new, become successful, and help her mother. Ronke spoke with so much sincerity that Wumi could see how serious she was. For the first time in a long while, Wumi felt sorry for her. She realized that while she had been enjoying life in the city, Ronke had remained in the village without any opportunity. Wumi finally agreed that she would help her. She explained that she could not take her immediately because she needed time to prepare. She said she would need to make arrangements and also look for a good tech school for her in the city. Ronke was so happy that she almost cried. She thanked Wumi over and over again. That night, Ronke could not sleep. She kept imagining what her new life would be like. She imagined herself leaving the village. She imagined herself living in the city. She imagined herself learning tech, wearing beautiful clothes, and becoming successful. But while Ronke was happy, Agnes was still worried. Deep down, she did not fully trust Wumi. She feared that Wumi would change her mind. And if that happened, Agnes was already ready to do something terrible. The festival ended 2 days later, and people slowly returned to their normal lives. The drummers stopped playing, the dancers disappeared from the village square, and visitors returned to their homes. But inside Ronke, excitement remained. Ever since Wumi agreed to help her, Ronke had not been herself. She woke up smiling every morning. She worked on the farm with more energy. She even started talking about the city like she was already there. She told her friends that one day she too would become successful. She said she wanted to learn tech, make money, and help her mother. For the first time in a long time, Ronke finally had hope. That evening, Wumi's mother called her into the room. Wumi sat on the bed while her mother spoke to her. Mama Wumi reminded her about Ronke. She wanted to know if Wumi truly meant what she said. Wumi nodded. She explained that she would help Ronke, but not immediately. She said she needed about 1 month after returning to the city. She wanted enough time to prepare a place for Ronke, rearrange her schedule, and research good tech schools in Abuja where Ronke could learn properly. Mama Wumi was happy to hear that. She immediately sent for Agnes and told her everything Wumi had said. But instead of feeling happy, Agnes became angry. She frowned as soon as she heard it. Inside her heart, she believed Wumi was only trying to deceive them. She does not want to help my daughter, Agnes thought. She is only saying all this so people will not say she is wicked. Agnes had already allowed jealousy to fill her heart so much that she could no longer see anything good in Wumi. Even when Wumi was trying to help, Agnes still believed she had bad intentions. That same day, Wumi decided she wanted Ronke to braid her hair before she returned to the city. She wanted a simple hairstyle she could travel with. When she told Ronke, Ronke was happy. She quickly prepared everything she needed. Later that afternoon, Agnes came to Wumi's parents' house. She smiled warmly and told Wumi to come and spend time at their house before leaving for the city. She said Ronke could braid her hair there so they could also talk properly. Wumi agreed without thinking too much about it. She had known Agnes all her life. She had no reason to suspect anything. That evening, Wumi went to Agnes's house. Ronke welcomed her happily. The two young women sat outside in the compound while Ronke began braiding Wumi's hair. As Ronke worked on her hair, they talked and laughed together. They talked about their childhood, they remembered the games they used to play, and the times they used to sit under the mango tree together. Ronke asked many questions about the city, and Wumi answered. For once, Wumi did not speak to her like she was beneath her. She told Ronke about city life,
work, and how difficult things were when she first arrived. She also advised Ronke to be serious and focused when she finally came. Ronke listened carefully. She was genuinely happy. She imagined herself and Wumi living together in the city like sisters. She imagined them going to work together, dressing nicely, and succeeding together. For that moment, there was no jealousy between them, only love and excitement. But inside the house, Agnes was watching quietly. She looked at Wumi and Ronke laughing together, but instead of being happy, she became more bitter. She hated seeing Wumi shine, she hated seeing Ronke look up to her, and most of all, she hated the thought that Wumi still had the power to decide whether Ronke's future would change or remain the same. As Ronke continued braiding Wumi's hair, some strands fell to the ground. When the hair was finished, Ronke swept the ground and gathered the loose strands together. Without saying anything, Agnes quietly collected the hair and hid it. Nobody noticed, not Wumi, not Ronke. Later that night, Wumi thanked them and returned home. She was leaving for the city the next morning. Before she left, Ronke hugged her tightly. She thanked her again for agreeing to help her. Wumi smiled and promised that she would call her as soon as everything was ready. Ronke believed her, but Agnes did not. That night, after everybody had gone to sleep, Agnes brought out the strands of Wumi's hair she had hidden. She looked at them for a long time. Then she wrapped them carefully inside a black cloth. Her face was cold. Her heart was filled with anger. And before the next week ended, she was planning to take those hairs somewhere very dangerous.
The next morning, Wumi woke up early and prepared to leave the village. Her bags were already packed and her car was waiting outside. Her mother cooked food for her journey while her father stood outside giving instructions to the driver. Before leaving, Wumi hugged her parents. She also hugged Ronke, who had come to say goodbye. Ronke was sad to see her leave, but she was also excited because she believed it would only be a matter of time before she joined Wumi in the city. Wumi smiled and reminded her to be patient. She promised that once she got back to the city and settled down, she would start making arrangements for her. Ronke believed every word. She stood by the roadside and waved as Wumi's car disappeared into the distance. After Wumi left, the village became quiet again. The festival was over and everybody returned to their normal life. Ronke went back to the farm with her mother. Wumi's parents stayed in their small house, proudly talking about their daughter. But inside Agnes, something dark was growing. She could not stop thinking about Wumi. She kept thinking about her beauty, her success, and the way people admired her. She thought about her expensive clothes, her car, and the rich men that followed her around during the festival. The more Agnes thought about those things, the more bitter she became. She started convincing herself that Wumi was only pretending to help Ronke. She believed Wumi would return to the city and forget all about her promise. People like Wumi only care about themselves, Agnes said to herself. She will never truly help my daughter. 2 days after Wumi left, Agnes brought out the black cloth where she had hidden the strands of Wumi's hair. She waited until evening before leaving the house. She did not tell Ronke where she was going. She simply wrapped the black cloth tightly and walked down a lonely path at the edge of the village. The path led to a dirty old hut surrounded by thick bushes and dry trees. People in the village hardly went there because they feared the man who lived inside. Inside that hut lived the Juju man. He was known for doing dangerous things for people. Some people went to him for money rituals. Some people went to him to harm others. Some people went to him when jealousy filled their hearts. Agnes stood outside the hut for a moment before entering. The inside was dark and smelled terrible. Animal skulls, feathers, red cloths, and dirty pots were scattered everywhere. The Juju man sat on the floor wearing a red wrapper around his waist. His eyes looked cold. When he saw Agnes, he smiled. "I know why you are here," he said. Agnes sat down slowly. She brought out the black cloth and opened it. Inside were the strands of Wumi's hair. The Juju man looked at them and nodded. Then Agnes finally spoke. She told him she wanted Wumi to become ugly. She wanted her beauty to disappear. She wanted people to stop admiring her. She wanted her to stop finding favor everywhere she went. She also told him that Wumi had refused to help Ronke, even though that was not true. The Juju man listened quietly. Then he laughed softly. "Beauty is what makes people love her," he said. "If the beauty goes, everything will go." Agnes nodded immediately. "That is what I want." The Juju man collected the hair and placed it inside a small pot. He began to say strange words. Then he mixed the hair with powder, oil, and some dark liquid. Agnes watched quietly as smoke rose from the pot. After some time,
The juju man gave Agnes a small charm wrapped in red cloth. He told her exactly what to do with it. He said she must wait until a certain time in the early morning when Wumi would be awake. Then she must hold the charm, call Wumi's name several times, and repeat the incantation he taught her. If you do it correctly, he said, her face will begin to change. Agnes held the charm tightly in her hand. She felt excited. For the first time in many years, she believed Wumi would finally suffer. When she returned home that night, Ronke asked where she had gone. Agnes lied and said she had gone to visit an old friend. Ronke did not suspect anything. That night, Agnes hid the charm carefully inside her room. She could hardly sleep because she was thinking about what would happen to Wumi. Meanwhile, far away in the city, Wumi had already returned home. She unpacked her bags, went back to work, and continued her normal life. She had no idea that someone in the village was planning something terrible against her. She had no idea that her own hair had been used for evil, and she had no idea that in just a few days, her beauty would suddenly begin to disappear. That night, Mama Wumi could not sleep. She kept turning on her bed from one side to another. She did not know why she felt so unrestless, but her heart was not at peace. After a long time, she finally slept. In her dream, she saw Wumi wearing dirty clothes and crying on the roadside. Her face looked strange and people were running away from her. Wumi was begging for help, but nobody was listening. Mama Wumi woke up immediately, sweating. She quickly woke her husband and told her everything she saw. But Wumi's father was not worried. He told her it was just a dream and that nothing bad could happen to her daughter. She is fine. She's doing well in the city. Stop worrying yourself. Mama Wumi tried to calm down, but she still felt uneasy. Unfortunately, they did not pray. Very early the next morning, Agnes woke up. Agnes brought out the charm the juju man had given her and held it tightly in her hand. She began to mention Wumi's name. Then she repeated the strange words the juju man had taught her. At that same time in the city, Wumi had just entered her bathroom to get ready for work. As she stood in front of the mirror, she suddenly felt a strange pain in her eyes. She touched her face and noticed that something was wrong. Her eyes began to change shape. Her cheeks started swelling. Her forehead became wider. Wumi screamed. Within seconds, her face began to twist into something she could not recognize. She fell to the floor in fear. She could not believe what was happening to her. She quickly stood up and looked into the mirror again. The face staring back at her was no longer the beautiful face she knew. Her head looked different. Her nose had changed shape. Her skin looked rough. Wumi screamed louder and burst into tears. At first, she thought she was dreaming. She pinched herself several times, but nothing changed. She rushed out of the bathroom and picked up her phone with shaking hands. The first person she called was her pastor. Wumi's pastor listened carefully as Wumi cried on the phone. He immediately told her not to panic. Then he asked her to send him a picture of her face. As soon as he saw it, he knew something spiritual was involved. He told Wumi to stay inside the house and not let anybody see her. Then he rushed over immediately. Wumi also called her parents. When Mama Wumi heard her daughter crying, she started shaking. Wumi sent them pictures of her face and both parents were shocked. Mama Wumi immediately remembered the dream she had the night before. She began to cry. By the time the pastor arrived, Wumi was already in tears. He prayed for her and told her that they would begin fasting immediately. He said this was not ordinary. For 3 days, Wumi stayed indoors. She did not go to work. She did not answer calls from anybody except her parents and pastor. The pastor prayed with her day and night. He also fasted with her. On the second day, while praying, the pastor suddenly became quiet. Then he opened his eyes and looked at Wumi. He told her he had seen something. He said he saw a woman in the village carrying her hair to a dark place. He saw a hut. He saw a dirty pot. He saw strange incantations. Then he saw Agnes. Wumi froze. She could not believe it. The pastor explained that Agnes was behind everything. He said jealousy had pushed her into doing evil. Now that they knew where the attack was coming from, their prayers became stronger. They prayed directly against every evil work. They prayed against every spell, every charm, and every strange incantation. By the third day, Wumi was weak from crying and fasting. She slept that night with tears in her eyes. But when she woke up the next morning and looked in the mirror, she screamed again. This time, it was not from fear. Her face had returned to normal. Her skin was smooth again. Her eyes were back to normal. Her beauty had returned. Wumi fell to the ground and thanked God. Her pastor thanked God with her. Her parents were overjoyed when they saw her face again. But while Wumi was celebrating in the city, Agnes was suffering in the village. That same day, her stomach suddenly started swelling. Within a few days, it became very large, like a woman who had been pregnant for many months. She could no longer eat properly. She could no longer sleep. She could hardly walk. People in the village became afraid. Even Ronke did not understand what was happening to her mother. A week later, Agnes became worse. She started crying and begging to see Wumi.
Please bring
By then,
Wumi!
Wumi's parents had traveled to the city to stay with their daughter for a while. When they heard about Agnes, the pastor advised them to go back to the village and hear what she had to say. When they arrived, Agnes was lying on a mat, looking weak and sick. Her stomach was still swollen. She started crying as soon as she saw Wumi. Then she confessed everything. She confessed that she had taken Wumi's hair. She confessed that she had gone to the juju man. She confessed that she wanted Wumi to become ugly because she was jealous. She also admitted that Wumi had actually agreed to help Ronke, but she refused to believe it. Ronke was shocked. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at her mother. She could not believe that her own mother had done something so wicked. It was her chance to finally leave the village and change her life, but her mother's jealousy had destroyed everything. Wumi looked at Agnes quietly. She was hurt, angry, and disappointed, but in the end she forgave her. She said she did not want revenge. She only wanted peace. However, she told Ronke that she could no longer take her to the city. Too much had happened. Even though Ronke had done nothing wrong, Wumi no longer felt safe. The whole situation had left her deeply hurt and afraid. She could not forget that somebody she trusted used her hair for evil. Ronke lowered her head and started crying. She tried to explain that she had no idea what her mother was planning. She said she truly loved Wumi and would never hurt her. Wumi believed her. She knew Ronke was innocent. She knew Ronke had always been kind to her. But she also knew that if Ronke came to live with her in the city, Agnes would still be connected to her life in one way or another. Wumi was no longer comfortable with that. Ronke cried even more because she knew her mother had destroyed the biggest opportunity of her life. She turned to look at Agnes lying weakly on the mat. For the first time in her life, Ronke felt anger toward her mother. She could not believe that the person who was supposed to protect her had ruined her future because of jealousy. You have destroyed everything for me, Ronke said through tears. Agnes started crying harder and begged her daughter to forgive her, but Ronke could not even look at her. She was too disappointed. From that day, things changed between mother and daughter. Ronke no longer spoke to Agnes the way she used to. She stopped laughing with her. She stopped telling her about her dreams. Even though Agnes was her mother, Ronke no longer trusted her. She felt like she could not continue living in that house anymore. Every time she looked at her mother, she remembered the pain, the shame, and the lost opportunity. A few days later, Ronke packed her clothes into a small bag. She wore a simple dress and slippers and stood outside the house quietly. Agnes came outside crying when she saw the bag. She begged Ronke not to leave. She said she was sorry. She said she only wanted a better life for her daughter. But Ronke shook her head. A mother who truly wants a better life for her child does not destroy the child's future. Agnes cried loudly and tried to hold her hand, but Ronke pulled away. She said she could no longer stay in the village and watch her life waste away. She wanted more for herself. She wanted to become successful. She wanted to prove that even without anybody's help, she could still make it. Ronke picked up her bag and started walking away from the village. She did not know where life would take her. She did not know how difficult the journey would be. But one thing was certain. She was never coming back to that village as the poor girl everybody pitied. One day she would succeed. And when that day came, it would be because she fought for herself.